I will not deny that I felt as if my world had come crashing down. I will not deny that I felt, why me? I will not deny that I felt all of the things that you feel when you go through a grief cycle.
The whole process is to just make them feel good about themselves and in a way that they can help to deal with everyday life, I would say. Just that. We are not dealing and associating or helping them to, oh, they should be XYZ person that they are not. They should be non-autistic, they should be non-ADHD. That's not at all how the treatment plan is. It is about just making them feel heard, valued and seen that, okay, you are there, you are who you are, we accept you the way you are, and we just will help you with the techniques like parents, therapists, or occupational therapists. Everybody works together to just make sure that they are able to deal with everyday life. It's not about treating them, it's not about making them somebody else, that, oh, you should be out of it. I think if that's the approach to deal with it, we are on the very wrong direction.
So I think body awareness is one very important thing. And the other thing also, how important it is to teach your teenage children masturbation. You have to, in his or their language, introduce them to body awareness.
So here we have with us today our professional who is Richika Gupta. She is a psychologist. And here we have our parent who is Mugdha Kalra. She is a very well-known personality in the media world and she is a parent of a child on the autism spectrum. So welcome to the Dolly Show. So this is what makes the Dolly Show unique. A professional and a parent. And here we discuss autism together. Great. So thank you so much for coming in. My first question would be to you. Now, your career has been really interesting. You have worked in the Thane mental hospital with a lot of cases of schizophrenia and intellectual disability. You also have been a part of Public Health Foundation of India. And there you have handled really different cases, being suicidal cases and, behavioral issues and things like that. So it's a really unique journey. So we would really love to know about that.
Yeah. So I would start with, started with internships during my graduation and masters. So in Mumbai, it was my first internship that was in Thane Mental Hospital that was provided through our master course as well. And as you mentioned, it was specifically for patients who are dealing with schizophrenia and intellectual disabilities. And it is something that was, for me, it was the first time witnessing it in person rather than just reading the textbooks and you get to know all the tips and techniques ready to shoot on. But once you see the client in front of you and you're like, oh, what to do, how to go about it, whether I'm doing the right thing. I should not, at least what I always feel is, it should not be in a negative remark or it should not go in a wrong way. It's better to not be able to help them completely, but not in some way that just hampers the whole process and the state they are in. And the whole, I would say, the empathy, passion, comfort, the patience, resilience is all that just eventually came out into me that was really, really required at that time. Because they don't understand the real world. They're not able to connect with it. And especially in Thane Mental Hospital, they were the cases who were just, sometimes they were just found near across the road or they were just left out. It maybe they were staying for like 20, 30 years. They have spent their whole lifetime just suffering emotionally, psychologically, and even physically, be it of different kind of abuses, stresses, traumas, considering in family and parental issues. And same for the intellectual disability clients, patients who are dealing with it. And starting with Public Health Foundation of India, I was personally scared for, how I'm gonna about the self-harm and suicidal cases. It was not my first choice to go into it. And I think just life threw it on me that, this is the first thing you have to start with. That was my first as such professional journey that began as the consultant psychologist as PHFI. And they were especially, around 18 to 30-year-old patients, female, male, equal ratios, going ahead with different kind of issues that leads to self-harm and suicidal behaviors. But at the end, it's just creating a safe, comfortable environment for them, creating that strong, very good rapport with the client so that they can be expressive. And sometimes what I have felt and heard, it goes through the expressions. That, if you're telling me about your story and I give that, oh, okay, you did that. I can't do that. I might not be the person who is in favor of what you did, or how you did it, but I can't be judgmental about it. That is the first and very utmost important kind of approach that I believed in. That no expressions, be it facial, verbal, gestures. Oh, I can't just move my chair and just give that. I'm afraid of you. I'm scared. I'm just worried about how you did. And there's a difference, slight difference between feeling bad for what you have been through and empathy. That is, I understand what you have been. I feel bad for you. That's very easy to say. But I can never understand that what you were going through when you were in that situation. That is something I've built across, going through different patients or different stages. Me growing as a person, I was just 21, 22 when I started my journey, I would say. So just 6+ years now. And that is how it has evolved.
And then what you got into Omni and then children with autism. So how was that shift?
Yes, so I started working as clinical director and head psychologist at Omni Health Services. And again, dealing with children, somehow we have neurodevelopmental disorders, autism, ADHD. It takes a whole lot of patience. I see them for an hour, but I appreciate each and every parent who has been dealing with it for years, every day, 24/7, working, non-working, irrespective. It is a huge salute. It's not easy. It's very easy to give a judgmental remark, just saying, he's an autistic child. He or she has an ADHD. Differences to be created, but it's not easy. It's not at all. And I would say basic things, understanding their expressions. There's a very open communication that has to be between the parent and child. The understanding of what they're going through, what they're feeling. It's normal. It happens. It is a process that they're going through it. And sometimes, if parents and family is not aware, they can't help themselves. They can't. They need a very strong family value system, I would say. Because there are many children, I think they might be going through it, but we don't know about them. I think it takes finances. It takes emotional strength as well. It's parents' test, I would say, rather than the child. Because, you can just handle them. You can manage them to some extent. But you have that fear, till what age? After me, who's there to see the child? So that's the whole process. There should not be any dependency creation. I don't want the child to be dependent on me, on therapy only, or on the parent. It should go both ways. That, okay, if I'm in any situation that might not be something I'm comfortable at, I should know the techniques, tips, strategies that can help me. That the whole process is to just make them feel good about themselves and in a way that they can help to deal with everyday life, I would say. Just that. We are not dealing and associating or helping them to, they should be XYZ person that they are not. They should be non-autistic. They should be non-ADHD. That's not at all how the treatment plan is. It is about just making them feel heard, valued, and seen that, okay, you are there, you are who you are, we accept you the way you are, and we just will help you. The techniques like parents, therapists, or occupational therapists, everybody works together to just make sure that they are able to deal with everyday life. It's not about treating them. It's not about making them somebody else that, oh, you should be out of it. I think if that's the approach to deal with it, we are on the very wrong direction. Yeah.
Woof, beautiful. After a very long time, heard a professional speak so eloquently about the condition and describe it in a way that it resonates with parents. Right. Wonderful.
So yes, ma'am, we have Mugdha ma'am with us, and we all know she has a very prominent presence in the world of media. And yes, she's a parent of a child, and she has done wonders. So, ma'am, we would really love to know. I do know you have a movement, which is a movement that you have started, which is not that different. So, we would really love to know about that.
You want to know about not that different, or
your entire journey as
well, to be honest, nobody chooses to be a special needs parent. You never read a book which says what to expect when you're expecting a special needs child. And therefore there is practically no awareness when you are expecting the child, when you are bringing up the child, because traditionally in the media, we haven't really seen representation of neurodiverse people, neurodiverse characters. And whenever you did have somebody in your family, you did not know how to identify with them. It just sort of went as वो थोड़ा odd है या वो थोड़ा अलग है, but you never really had a vocabulary or an understanding of autism. And I say this because I had a career of solid 14-15 years before I had my child. And being a news journalist, I thought I knew everything about the world, not as an expert, but as jack of all trades. But when autism hit me, it hit me like a tornado because I wasn't prepared for it. And even if I knew about autism, it felt like it was a severe case of mental disability, because that is what we had grown up seeing. So the fact that it is a spectrum was not told, was not ever heard. You only saw Asperger's as being celebrated. So to expect that a child can have autism, can be on the spectrum, can be mildly or moderately, need not be super bright or intelligent, and need not be super challenged and dependent, but somewhere in the middle, that was a learning in a huge way. And when I had Madhav, it took me a while to. I come from a family of doctors. My mother is a gynecologist, so she was the first one to spot that he wasn't making any eye contact. And eventually, when we figured that Madhav has autism, it was also a time in my career when I was taking a sabbatical. I was leaving live news journalism, and I wanted to shift gears. And it was also the time my husband got an opportunity to move out of Delhi, which was my support system city. My parents-in-law, my mom-in-law, my friends, everybody was in Delhi and Noida, and that move from a city that I had known forever in my life to a new city was interestingly refreshing from the point of view of my acceptance journey, because I had nobody to give an answer to, nobody to explain what I was going through. Because one of the first things that hits you as a parent is, oh my God, what am I going to tell people? Why am my child like this? And it is something that every parent, however modern they are, however educated they are, will go through, which is an existential sort of a crisis where you feel, and we've been a poster sort of family in the conventional way, so to speak. My husband and I are first generation television journalists. We were both on television. We made a house for ourselves. Our families were healthy and happy. And, so progressively you think that, you will have a progeny who is going to be a reflection of the two of you. Well, Madhav is a reflection of the two of us, but in a way that we would have never imagined. He has a lot of the two of us. But, I will not deny that I felt as if my world had come crashing down. I will not deny that I felt, why me? I will not deny that I felt all of the things that you feel when you go through a grief cycle, which is I was angry, I was bargaining that, मैं इस पंडित के पास चली जाऊं या ये पूजा करा लूं या मैं कुछ ऐसे कर लूं, जिससे मेरा बच्चा ठीक हो जाए. And the बच्चा ठीक हो जाए bit also comes to your mind when you have no idea about autism. Correct. Because autism is not a disease, it's a condition. Right. Even to come to terms with the fact that, this is a condition that the child will live for the rest of his life is something that hits you hard. Right. It hits you hard because there is no cure, because it's not, as I said, a disease. It's not even a sort of a disorder because, there are a lot of theories that are going around. Exactly. But, it is to understand that it is lifelong. आज आपका ये issue है बच्चे के साथ में, आप सोचते हो कि ये खत्म हो गया. Right? You start to celebrate that issue. Right. लेकिन उसके बाद हो जाता है कि दूसरा issue आ गया. फिर teenage आ गई, फिर कुछ और हो गया. So, it's a mindset, I would say, that parents are not prepared for. Right. Primarily not prepared for because awareness नहीं है. और अगर awareness नहीं है, अगर awareness होती भी है, तो आपके पास इंटरवेंशंस नहीं है. अगर आपके पास इंटरवेंशंस भी हैं तो वो बहुत महंगे हैं. And you know, the government is not taking any responsibility for it. So primarily, if you are a caregiver in this country, both of you need to work. We see a lot of marriages breaking down. We see a lot of marriages not working because one parent takes the onus of earning the money and the other parent is perpetually being the primary caregiver. So there are a lot of issues. But I would say when you completely and when you only completely surrender to the fact that it is autism, I gotta live with it. This is a diagnosis that has come from my family. You know, life starts to change. Life does change. Because अगर आप denial में रहेंगे पूरी जिंदगी तो कुछ नहीं होगा. And that's what led me then to come out of my own grief, my own experience. And because I was trained as a journalist, I just felt that, you know, I had no shame in accepting my child is my child. I love him to bits. Whether he is neurotypical or neurodiverse, it doesn't matter. I'm going to celebrate my child. And I think once that awareness hit me, you know, to be honest, Dolly, Ruchi, I now feel that, you know, in some ways I'm blessed to have an autistic child because, you know, I see neurotypical parents go through perhaps much more. So, you know, I'm not complaining anymore. Let's just put it that way. So that's my parental journey.
Yes, a roller coaster ride.
Yeah,
for sure. But yes, we need to get to terms. Great. So, yeah, my next question would be to you, ma'am. So, how do you put in the psychological aspect with autism in regards to analysis? See, there are a lot of children who are not properly diagnosed. There is a lot of, misdiagnosis that is done, or there's no awareness. So, would you just guide our audience as to what is the right way? What are the red flags? And what parents should be aware of?
As you mentioned that, you know, there's a lot of overlapping that happens between the symptoms. Sometimes we as a clinicians, physicians, therapists, we also, you know, we have to be very much into minute details of what symptoms are. We need to not just, you know, tick mark, okay, this is how it is, this is the DSM that we're following on, and all the symptoms are okay, it's there. It has to be measured by the intensity, the duration, the frequency, the how severe it is, if it is. So there are a lot of things that happens and goes into play before actually calling it a diagnosis, I would say. Rather than, oh, he's just behaving like, you know, he's too hyperactive or he's not able to make an eye contact. It can be multiple reasons, as you mentioned. It can be that culture and social background from where the child is coming. It can be the self-esteem issues, peer pressure, family stress. It can be something that, you know, sometimes we say that a child is not able to speak well. It can be jaw issue. It can be, you know, the structure that how is it formed since birth. All this ENT specialists, we need there as well, you know, that everything is okay and he's prescribed and it's set for the medical procedures. So they have to go through multiple things before coming as a diagnosis. Now, suppose there's an anxiety. It is a very natural thing that we all, every day, I go through it, everybody goes through it. So it's not just, you know, we don't have to wait to diagnose it. It can be just a basic thing. Sometimes we as a therapist, we have to tell the client, it is a situation, it is a phase that you're going through. Maybe you're going through the symptoms. It can be panic, phobia to specific situations, but we can't just diagnose without the assessments that needs to be done. It can be, you know, basic psychological tests, be it autistic or it can be for anxiety, different things going through it. There has to be proper checklist and symptoms that considering, as I mentioned, the frequency, duration, everything needs to be followed. As well as she mentioned that, you know, the parents' feedback, how well they are observing, that plays an important role. Child can't express what they're going through. I don't know whether at the very moment he or she is meeting me for the first time, can be just scared and worried about it. I might not just get the real picture out of it. We need to have very close ones, having, you know, a very close bond with the child as well. That communication, openness, they can give us the best picture that we want. And considering that, as you mentioned about how the psychological things come into play, and if there's any kind of things that we need to observe, I would say it starts with how the child is behaving. Like since I would say 1 or 2 years also, how well the child is just responding to you. Don't expect too much. Don't just put that pressure, oh, you should have started walking till now. Or you should just say ma and pa, and all that pressure the child goes through. It starts from home, I would say. Everything, some way, just how the parent is connecting with the child. Then it's the basic symptoms. It can be the verbal language. It can be whether they are making some sounds, eye contact, as you mentioned, or it can be just body postures, gestures. Are they, saying different kind of thing? Any repetitive behavior, if that is happening, or is it kind of attention lacking? Maybe, they just throw things. Is it too much aggression that comes into play? So all those things needs to be considered since birth, but just as an observation, not a thing that, okay, it is something wrong and I need to go and meet somebody. Obviously, you should when there is a situation, but I would just take it just lightly. It should not be just waiting for some diagnosis to come out and we have to spread a word about it. But I would say very close understanding about the child. Plus, as you very well mentioned, you need to accept it. If you get to know about it, there's no other option other than accepting. You have to, it takes whole lot of patience, courage, strength, wisdom, I don't know what all to accept it. But that is how it is. If you don't accept it, child can't accept it. Forget about the society. We are not allowing, we're not the responsible ones to make them accept. We can just work on it, and you are playing an important role for that. But these are bit and parts that we're doing. But everything, I would say, starts with parents, how the caregivers, if you have, now suppose if I had a client and child who is diagnosed with autism, but they both and parents are working. They were not well informed about the client, about the child. I don't know how much he eats, what he eats, or different kind of things that the child behavior, emotional, because he was close to his grandparents. Nothing is wrong about that. But they were not able to give a clear picture. Maybe I would have a, deep instinct and everything about it, but just to get it from the right person. So that is, I would say, everybody plays an important, not just mother or father, everybody who is around the child. They have to know it, understand it. They should know those techniques and strategies that they can, actually help the child at home, maybe at social settings. Sometimes just going to the mall and child starts behaving aggressively, starts crying. You should know what to do. It should not be about, I would say that, I'm scared of embarrassment or something will happen, so I should know how to handle, or I will not take my child out. You're just closing all the doors that are open for him. You're just limiting the belief, limiting his value system. And there's no scope of, any way that he can learn from it. Because the child needs us. He needs our support in a way that, okay, what I'm going through, this is how it is. Maybe the Seedha way, I would say, the straight road will not be for me. I have to take all those right, left turns and everything to reach where I want to. But there is a way. So that is the only awareness I would say that's required.
Super, which is again pretty insightful, because parents, that's what my next question is going to be to ma'am. That, parents currently, few of them are unaware. There is a lot of lack of awareness. Secondly, as we discussed, acceptance. So these are the two things that currently we are dealing with. So what do you think should be done, or what is your stance on this?
I think awareness, as you mentioned, is extremely important, because what we are now figuring out is that neurodiversity is a huge spectrum. Where a child falls in it is very debatable. Primarily because I, as a parent, if my child is struggling medically, I'm not going to be that person who is celebrating their neurodiversity, right? And on the spectrum, there is the neurodiverse world, which is celebrating neurodiversity. But if my child is having seizure, or if my child is not able to communicate, or if he is having comorbidities of anxiety, etc., what is there to celebrate in neurodiversity? The idea is to understand and put the money in research, because what is happening world over at the moment is that people who are on the other end of the spectrum, who can manage their neurodiversity, are saying, please don't change us. We love the way we are and we want to celebrate it. But they don't understand that neurodiversity is a whole huge spectrum.
Correct.
So on the autism spectrum, you also have people who are mild, moderate and severely autistic. And they need support. They need the controversial ABA. ABA works for our children. It may not work for those who are at the high end of the spectrum, because they have the agency as well. But for our children who are mild, moderate and severely autistic, to give them a sense of independence in life, I need all kinds of therapies. I need all kinds of help. I need support from the government, from hospitals. सो आई थिंक एक वो बहुत बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है टू अंडरस्टैंड कि न्यूरो डाइवर्सिटी, तुम्हारी न्यूरो डाइवर्सिटी मेरी न्यूरो डाइवर्सिटी से अलग है.
Correct.
So number one is that once the parents understand that, because I think, and you would have encountered this, that once a parent gets a diagnosis of autism, very soon they will be like, अब इसकी सुपर पावर क्या है, ये बच्चा किस चीज में अच्छा है. Not every child is gifted. I mean, how many neurotypicals are gifted?
Exactly.
Right? So my friends will come and they'll ask me, so what is he good at? I said, he's a typical teenager. He's not good at anything at the moment except for emotionally blackmailing his mother into doing things. Every year something or the other happens. And I am done with looking for those signs of hyper talent or superpowers in my child, because everybody after their autism diagnosis thinks ki bhaiya Asperger mil jaye bacche,
Correct.
which is even worse. Today I have a mildly moderately autistic child. In a lot of ways, I am thankful to God that he is not severely autistic. I'm also thankful to God that he is not Asperger's, because the kind of comorbidities come with being at the high end, high IQ person is again very, very challenging. You have narcissism syndrome coming if you are going undetected. You have OCDs coming. You have bipolar depression if it has a genetic predisposition. You have anxiety of the sort that will need medical intervention.
Correct.
So the awareness has to be from the point of view that आपके पास में एक कंडीशन है, इसकी ये सिम्टम्स है, आप इसको मत दो आप लेबल, आप सिम्टोमेटिकली ट्रीट करो. बच्चा बोल नहीं पा रहा है, हम स्पीच थेरेपी करेंगे. बच्चा मोटर स्किल्स ठीक नहीं है, हम ऑक्यूपेशनल थेरेपी करेंगे. I interacted with some psychologists from and counselors from NIMHANS, right?
Okay.
And one of my requests to them also was that, when you see a parent, or as an inclusive school, when you see a child who perhaps may be on the spectrum, who is not neurotypically normal or regular as they want to put it, the first thing that you need to do is get the parents, have a chat with them, try to understand where they are coming from. हर पेरेंट जो है वो इस डायग्नोसिस के लिए रेडी नहीं है.
Correct.
So if you're going to hand it out to them and say child has autism or child is on the autism spectrum disorder, he has that, it is traumatic.
It is.
Which is why when new parents speak to me, I always tell them, if you can afford, please go for family therapy. Life is going to change. Don't worry about the child. Child has not seen any life. उसको नहीं पता है कि न्यूरोटिपिकल बच्चे कैसे होते हैं और मैं क्यों अलग हूँ. 3 साल पे 4 साल पे उस बच्चे को कोई आइडिया नहीं है, लेकिन तुमको पता है, तुम 25 बार उसको कंपेयर कर चुके हो दूसरे बच्चों से. दैट्स वेयर यू हैव लैंडेड हियर, राइट? कि अब ये ऑटिज्म का है तुम्हारे पास में. आई ऑलवेज टेल पेरेंट्स, इफ यू कैन अफोर्ड थेरेपी, प्लीज गो मीट अ थेरेपिस्ट. A family therapist will put it in perspective for you how your life is going to change, because life is going to change. There's no other way around. हम उसको लीपा पोती करके और उसको अच्छे से हम नहीं परोस सकते हैं, as they say. So very important for parents to go through therapy, which is why now therapy is expensive.
Right.
फिर हम बैठे हैं पेरेंट्स, सीनियर पेरेंट्स. मुझे सहारा था उन पेरेंट्स का who were ready to speak to me, who had older children than me.
Okay.
So then I was in a better position because I was speaking to parents who already had children.
Right.
Because it does get easy.
Correct.
And if you are going to get stuck in that grief cycle, the grief cycle ends with acceptance. A lot of people may not reach there, but at least, you have to cross those phases.
Now, let's come to another aspect of, these children on the spectrum. From childhood to their adolescence and then to the later stage. How have you dealt with that? You being a parent and then you being a professional. How do we deal with this situation from childhood to your adolescence and the journey?
Yeah. So to start with childhood to adolescence, it starts with first thing is mood swings. Like they're irritated all the times, or sometimes they're just too happy. Another part of the day they're just frustrated about it. And I think it's just the phase that they're going through it. I know it's difficult for any parent or even the surroundings or near ones to handle it, but the understanding needs to be there. The child doesn't know why he or she is going through what she is going through. It can be mood swings, it can be mood disturbances, maybe of the psychologicals or surroundings around, but it's sometimes the hormonal imbalances that goes all the way. And the whole kind of supportive environment, listening to them with the open ears and just be present. You don't have to answer or give them suggestions every time, I would say, but just be there. Listen to them. There might be some reasons that they're saying and doing what they have been doing for, but obviously they know that they have their own parents. There's a safety net they have behind. No matter what we do, that support that they should know, okay, whatever sometimes they go through difficult situations, be it with their friends, it can be cybercrime, it can be some kind of abuse, it can be trauma, some comparisons that they go through with their peer group. They should know whom should I inform first, rather than taking any step that can be very, very difficult or I would say detrimental for anybody around. It might lead to some kind of, just cutting off from the social background, or maybe too much screen time, just comparing themselves from friends and people who are they're seeing on the real life, and then maybe it can be self-harm. It can lead to suicidal thoughts, running away from the home. Sometimes children think that parents are, they hate me, they are my enemies. And again, as a parent, we have to understand that, again, they don't actually hate us, they don't treat us as enemy, but it's more of that they're not able to understand. Because I think the childhood, adolescence, they go through some kind of with anxiety, mood swings, they need to have that rebellious nature because they want to have that autonomy that, I have my freedom. I can take my own decisions. I need to go out with my friends on my own time. I don't need to ask my parents every time. Those kind of things that happens. It's a phase. They're not doing it just to disturb you or just make you feel bad, but they're just going through it. And as a parent, again, setting boundaries is definitely required, but with a clear communication. Okay, this is why I'm expecting you, why I'm expecting, what I'm expecting, and how can we, find out that middle ground to go about it. Rather than just shutting all the doors and, oh, no, you will not go out. I think child will just rebel. Now to they will just do it, jaan booch ke aur zyada ki now to I will go out. Because they have that curious nature, that whatever they have been said or told not to do, they will definitely try it.
Correct.
So we have done it since our childhood. So it's just a human nature, I would say.
Correct.
So it's social peer pressure, screen time, social media plays an important role now. It can be anxiety that they're going through. Sometimes in that childhood, adolescence, every time is irritated. He's just disturbed. Iska phase hai. Sometimes they might be seriously disturbed.
Correct.
They might be going through some anxiety, or it can be just any sleep disturbance, any, study, academics pressure. It can be comparisons, or somebody at school bullying them. Anything that can be happening in their background. Maybe you are not aware of it. Sometimes any arguments or disturbances in the family, maybe the couple issues, or it can be the family issue, financial issue. Child is not saying, but they are the most observant people in the whole world, I would say. They have a very keen observer eye kind of procedure and process. They sense it all. As we say, once a female is pregnant, it's not about just you, how you're feeling. It's about the surroundings, not just how you feel yourself. What kind of vibe and aura you are in. That is what child senses and observe, and that is how he or she is. There's no genetic proof of taking the personality, exact traits other than physical and genetic domain. But it's more of, I'd say, that what kind of environment they were staying in. What was that feeling? Were you too stressed? Were you anxious? Was there any kind of couple issues that you were always worried about? Any kind of judgmental approach? Maybe you just thought a lot about it and then child got it. So when the child comes into the real world and they go through their own life experiences, it comes into play subconsciously or unconsciously. That, okay, we don't know why it's there. It's there. It's not on the surface level, but we know it's related and linked to something that the child has been seeing in the family for very long. They might not have expressed it. They might not have even told how they feel about it, but they've seen their parents arguing, or maybe any kind of comparisons, any disagreements happening to a very wide scale and not in a healthy coping mechanism. So I think it all plays, and I think every household thing that's happening, be it arguments, yelling, throwing tantrums and all of it, it's a part. It's just how you deal with it. If you're just able to pass through it very smoothly in a way that you're able to have those healthy coping mechanisms or techniques, strategies, if you're not able to do it, if you are able to ask for support or help, do that. consult a psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, anybody whom you can relate to. But you need to, if you're not the one who is able to manage it well. Because now we have 30, I would say 30, mid-30 clients, and I have seen it's all the self-identity, self-crisis, self-value. They're not loved enough, they're not respected enough, they were not heard enough. It all related to childhood. I think it's the best part and the crucial part. Like who we are today, be it me, you or ma'am, it's just how we were, I would say the upbringing. Or more than that, how I was treated. I was given that respect. Was I even able to make that decision making skills? Even, or maybe it can the relationship thing. Why am I so possessive? Why am I so obsessed over some things? It's all linked to childhood. It's all what you saw, what you heard, how you dealt, how the situations or people around made you deal with things. So I think it's all linked, coordinated if you think about it.
Yeah,
Too much detail.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the basic things that need to be taken
Yes.
care of.
Yes.
Oof. Ma'am, you've been there, done
Yeah.
that. So we
And still doing it.
Yeah.
Living
And will
experience.
do it. No, so I think when we specifically talk about autism, I think one needs to understand that that there will be challenges at every stage of life. Typically, what happens is parents go through a tough phase with children when they are under 7. Because between, when they say terrible 2s hit, the terrible 2s are terrible 3s and terrible 4s and terrible 5s. So under 7 is when they are having meltdowns because they themselves don't know how to handle it. The parent doesn't know how to handle it. So those meltdowns, those outbursts are because of sensory issues. That is also the time, your therapy is not in place. You're still trying to understand what is the sensory profile of the child, etc. So I would say that is a tough phase where parents have a very tough time. In my case, because I was in Bangalore, I had zero support, which means I was my child's primary caregiver. And those 4 years of sabbatical sort of gave me a lot of, so, I also tell people that, a lot of women feel that mera career khatam ho gaya, meri life khatam ho gayi, main ab kaise wapas aaungi, kya karungi. But I always say, sabka time aata hai. You are on your own timeline, right? So your timeline right now says that, take a break, learn about autism, understand autism, try and accept autism. Even if you haven't accepted autism, at least try, understand your child and start your journey. I took that time out for 4 years. During that time, I would say Madhav had the most difficult time before adolescence, which was he had meltdowns. He was trying to figure his own way with his sensory awkwardness and his sensory. I was also developing a thick skin as a parent कि अच्छा चलो mall में अगर meltdown हो गया है तो मुझे कैसे shut कर देना है सबको, and I only have to concentrate about my child. So one of the things that I was doing was not hiding my child, taking him everywhere. So so that is the time when the child is and you are both going through that phase. After 7, things start to settle in. A lot of parents have medical intervention, a lot of parents have therapeutic intervention. If you are an aware parent, the biggest thing you do at that point in time is either you go to an inclusive school where the child is understood or you go to a special needs school. If you are going to a regular school, तब फिर आपके जो ये childhood issues हैं ये और भी ज्यादा होंगे क्योंकि बच्चा बुली हो रहा है, बच्चा समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, डिटेंशंस हो रहे हैं, बाहर कर दे रहे हैं, हर चौथे दिन पीटीए पे आपको बुलाया जा रहा है कंप्लेन करने के लिए, and then eventually you are told, please take your child off. Correct. Right? And then, you are taking that child out to a special needs school or another school. So that leads to another trauma of sorts that, till now I was with different people and now I am with different people. So, that mental health of the child sort of starts to suffer. So it's very important that, in that phase, you are understanding your child and understanding, again, awareness is such a huge piece. Only you as a parent can understand आपका बच्चा किस capability का है. अगर वो school नहीं कर पा रहा है, why do you want to push him to a regular school? Exactly. A lot of people I understand do not have that option. A lot of people may not have special needs schools around them. A lot of people may not feel that, you know, a lot of people in India have children to be able to take care of them in their old age. And then to imagine that, you know, now I have a child jiski mujhe hi care karni hai. You know, so then there are a lot of traumatic family issues, etc. And the environment sort of gets screwed. But when we are talking only about body changes, mental change, mental health changes, and phase change in autism. So we have 7 tak ye hota hai. I would say 7 to 10 is a period where parents are like, ठीक है, अभी हमने थोड़ा figure out कर लिया है. You know, this is fine. This is going all right. You know, we have a set of issues, but you know, I think I'm fine with my child. Then the tweens hit you, and then the teens hit you. In over 50 to 60% of children with the ASD, with boys especially, we have seen epilepsy as one of the comorbidities. So my son had his first and not epilepsy, seizures. So it has to be divided. Epilepsy is something else, but seizures may come with. And that's what we tell parents, that after 10, especially with boys, you know, there is a huge chance that, you know, a seizure may happen. But when the first time the seizure happened to my son, I was devastated. I had no idea what to do. I knew practically कि मुझे क्या करना है, academically क्या करना है, कि मुझे पता था कि वो seizure आ रहा है जो कि उसकी body जिस तरीके से react कर रही है. But I was panicked. I rushed him to the hospital, and the whole thing happened. And you know, where I could, but you know, the first episode is always the episode which will, you just don't know what's happening to your child. You know, and you have these worst thoughts: have I lost my child? What is going to happen? And you know, all of those things happen. But a child is prone to seizures around that time. So that is something that mentally, nahi hua, bahut acha, lekin ho sakta hai, be prepared. Intervention is very simple. Go to a neurologist. They put the child on medicines. The medicines continue till you are past your hormonal phase, and meds help. Meds also help in regulating the behavior. You also understand what could be the triggers. So, you know, if with a seizure, if a light is, if lights are triggers, if noise is trigger, if something else is trigger, you start making those diaries. So it's very important for a caregiver to maintain a diary of mood swings. So with Madhav, at 10 when this happened, it was a whole new thing. You know, that's when we discovered कि भाई अब medication शुरू होगी. अब मेडिकेशन के बारे में आप अपनी पूरी वो करते हैं कि भाई साइड इफेक्ट्स क्या हो सकते हैं, so you have to be prepared for that. Then you have to be prepared for that, you know, when are the medications going to be taken off, finding out from your neurologist or your psychiatrist or your developmental pediatrician that, you know, what is sort of the long-term plan with meds. So that does happen. So, you know, I think for the ones, I always say this, that, you know, a lot of people say, I want to go to the best doctor in town. Go to the best doctor in town. But then ask that best doctor, which is a good doctor you recommend. When you have a doctor they recommend, go to that doctor, because that doctor will give you time. That doctor will be on SMS with you. And I'm very, very lucky that, you know, we have our pediatrician. I have my, and make friends with pediatricians in the family.
Right.
You know, psychologists hai family mein, neurologists hai family mein, bhai barson baat nahi ki unse, lekin now they are your best friends. So, you know, in that period, they are the ones who will help you. So now I have all the doctors on my this thing. I've spent time in finding those doctors. And, you know, you get an idea about what to expect. So, you know, so this happened, and then we were introduced to meds, and so that's a phase. Medication ke side effects honge. Bachcha weight put on karega, kam karega.
Right.
With a girl child, it's even more challenging because that's the time they start with their periods.
Right.
So you have to be careful about कि obesity तो नहीं आ रही है. You know, one of the things I remember my pediatric neurologist had told me was after Madhav's seizure had happened, she was like, sports is medicine for your child. If the child is physically fit and if he is draining the energy on the field, that's OT for him, that's medication for him, and that is something that will take him through his life. And 10-year was the mark when we first got a fitness trainer for Madhav. Now he is going to be 15. Every 6 days of the week he has worked out, other than when he's on a holiday. So he will go run, he will go do circuits, he will do, that for me is my biggest investment. It's not therapy, it's not OT, it's not anything else, it's fitness. And you don't have to hire somebody, who fancy. Absolutely. You have to hire somebody who just has patience. Bhaga sake bacche ko. Bas. That's the thing. Pairing mein time lagega, lekin uske baad mein make your child. So fitness has to come somewhere very soon under 10. Because if the child is fit, hyperactivity nahi hogi, hormonal issues, everything will be managed. He'll sleep better. A lot of our children have sleeping issues. Those issues will be sorted. आप भाग रहे हो कर रहे हो भूख लगेगी. So the children will be then eating. Otherwise they are picky eaters. खाते नहीं हैं. So fitness is one thing that needs to be introduced. And then comes the horrible teens. Teens is very challenging because as a neurotypical, they go through hormonal changes. And I want to tell this to all the mothers out there who perhaps are like me, who had their children in their, when they were touching 30s or in their mid-30s. We are perimenopausing around that time. Right. So there are two hormonally raging people in the house. True. The mother and the child. And the baap bichara is, unki to koi scientific wo nahi banai hai, lekin I'm sure they are also going through something or the other. Sure. Right? Midlife crisis hi ho raha hoga kisi cheez ka, ki kya karna hai. So, the house around a teenage child is everyone's on eggshells. So I always say that, that mothers should be gentle on themselves because it's also around this time that you are perimenopausing or menopausing. And teenage will come with its set of challenges. In a special needs child, there is a lot of body exploration. There's touching of the privates. There is attraction for the opposite. You cannot define it, but it starts early in girls and late in boys. So the girls need to go for, and now there has to be a distinction between, we have always been doing good touch and bad touch. That philosophy has to be thrown out. It is safe or unsafe touch. Primarily because sex makes you feel good. So it's part of good touch. If somebody is taking advantage of you and touching you inappropriately, but you are finding it pleasurable, you will not think of it as bad touch. You will think of it as a good touch. So it is safe touch or unsafe touch. And this I figured when I would tickle my son on his tummy and on his thighs. And he would like it. And then my own sister saw me doing that. And she did it with him and he was happy with it. And I was like, other than the parent, there is somebody else who has replicated that behavior and the child is liking it. So the good touch and the bad touch story, and I was very glad that it happened with my family, my own sister, and she looked at me and I looked at her and I was like, all right, this is something that we need to teach. So the child has to be taught in this time body awareness, which is why I feel no parent should worry about academic intervention till the age of 15, 16. Bachcha baad mein bhi padh lega. At this point in time, it's only independent skills, safety skills. Are you safe? I'm not going to be able to see you pure time, but you yourself have to have that agency. So I think body awareness is one very important thing. And the other thing also, how important it is to teach your teenage children masturbation.
Yes.
And obviously you find an appropriate age and that appropriate age, because, our children are anyways thinking perhaps 5-6 saal piche. So, if my child is say 15 right now, his body may be of 15, but his mental age is of 10. So perhaps I don't need to introduce a sex ed right now.
Exactly.
but body awareness.
Mm.
You know, so I recently attended a workshop by a very good doctor who said that, you know, make photographs of make a chart of photographs of the child from birth till where he is now, and from his pictures teach him, देखो माधव इतना छोटा था, तब तो माधव इतना सा था, अब देखो माधव इतना बड़ा हो गया, अब इतना बड़ा हो गया, you know. And then you also talk about, oh, do you know you have hair here, you know, your body is different, you know, this is straight for you, see mama doesn't have it straight. You have to, in his or their language, introduce them to body awareness. Then the safe and unsafe comes. Who can touch you, who can't touch you,
Exactly.
what do you do if someone touches you, कैसे चिल्लाना है, क्या करना है, वो करना है, you know, that you should be teaching. So body awareness, letting them play with their privates, but in safe spaces, in private spaces. That is, you cannot say. So, you know, it's a team effort.
Exactly.
And, you know, so I get called by the school, you know, I speak to school very often. I will tell them that, you know, okay, what has he been doing? So the teacher will say, you know, he, in the morning when he came, you know, there are instances when, you know, he's curious about touching his privates. So then we come up with an intervention. We say, all right, this is what we are doing at home. This is, send him to the private space. The point is that, you know, a lot of people will not speak about this.
Exactly.
Right.
My son went through a phase of rage as well. For 3-4 months, there were rage fits where he would be hitting. I have gotten hit. I have hit him back. You know, but those rage fits, now I understand after researching and after speaking to my doctor that, you know, they may mimic a seizure, an epileptic, you know, so the child is not you know, he is not seizuring, if that is a word. But what is happening, he's going through a fit of rage. So what would happen with Madhav, at that point in time, it could be unprovoked. It could be something that he was thinking about and it has just suddenly hit him. Or it could be that, you know, it came up as a seizure and it is mimicking the effects of but it is taking the face of a rage. Wherein initially we were like, what should we do?
Right.
You know, if I was hitting him, he was hitting me back. And he's a strong boy now. So what we would do, we would hold him down, we would just give him a deep compression. And, you know, we would just say, it's going to pass, Madhav, it's going to pass. It's all right, Madhav, it's okay. Play some music that is a calming music, etc. But rage, and then it would go away and he would just come out as if with no memory of it. So when he would come out of that, he would become a child again. But when he was raging, he was somebody else. So rage also comes. And, you know, when I started talking to other parents, they were like, हाँ ये तो होता है. I said, bloody hell, why is not anybody talking about it?
Correct.
कि मुझे बता तो seizures के बारे में तो मुझे पता था, तो मुझे पता है कि, you know, 10 साल पे जब उसको हुआ, you know, this was happening. But, you know, this is somebody nobody talks about.
Exactly.
You are so ashamed of talking कि भाई आपके बेटे ने आपके ऊपर हाथ उठा दिया, या आप इतने ashamed हो. You know, I went to the behavior therapist after the 3rd episode. And, you know, as a privileged parent, I am guilty. But, you know, I must have spoken to 50 people to get me an appointment with that person. And when I got into her office, she looked at me and she says, yeah, tell me now, what's the emergency? And I told, this is what has happened. And she looked at me and she laughed. And, you know, she was like, she says, okay, you're the only parent who has come to me after the 3rd episode. Most parents come to me if either the child has landed in jail or the parent has landed in ER, emergency room, because one of them has gotten hurt. Or, you know, the child has misbehaved with somebody in the community. वो मतलब वो rage होके वो इतना हो गया है कि 16-17 साल पे उसने किसी को मारपीट दिया है. And then, you know, they have taken him to the thana, or they have taken him to the school or principal or something of that has happened.
Something huge has to happen.
Then
Exactly. So, so, you know, I think again, awareness. Again, understanding that your child, your autistic child, will have different phases in life. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm reading about it. What I understand is that anxiety will play an important role. So I'm trying to see if I can introduce music therapy, if I can introduce yoga, if I can introduce those things which are, can I move to a city which is less chaotic, you know, the environment? Can I give him a hobby? Can I put less? So I have now decided that my child will not give any certification exam. NIOS मेरे बच्चे के लिए बना नहीं है, लेकिन हर स्पेशल नीड्स पेरेंट जो है वो NIOS कराने की कोशिश कर रहा है. We have a curriculum crisis in the country. Why push the child to study something जो कि वो नहीं करेगा, and that is putting so much pressure.
Exactly.
So my then immediate worry is कि भाई मुझे ये teenage निकालना है anxiety free. अब वो मैं कैसे कर सकती हूँ? I will fight my battles. अगर वो रात में ब्रश करने के बाद में वो उसको मिल गए चिप्स, उसको चॉकलेट मिल गई, अब मैं उससे लड़ूंगी नहीं. That's a battle I'm not going to fight. I will tell him, all right, you eat it, brush your teeth after that. If he has been brushing teeth for 5 days, 6th day he doesn't brush his teeth, nothing is going to happen. ठीक है, मत करो तुम. नहाए नहीं है तो भाई न्यूरोटिपिकल बच्चे भी नहीं नहाते हैं. You know, अगर so you know, it's like you have to pick your battles.
Exactly.
But bodily, mind-wise, your autistic child will go through changes through his life.
Yeah.
You have to be aware. You have to make them aware that, you know, this is what happens when you're getting anxious. What are the things you do? You know, we have sensory kits that we send
Right.
for parents and for children. You know, those kind of things have to be made available. You should need to have fidget breaks in classes at your workplaces.
Workplace as well.
So there is a lot that is going on in their body, and as a parent, if you have to deal with it, educate yourself, make yourself more aware.
So as we mentioned about, you know, holistic wellness, it's really, really important. Not just therapy can play an important role. Be it yoga, mindfulness activities, breathing techniques, as much as physical activities. Like, I think the best thing you are doing, as you said, is best investment. Keeping the child active.
Sports,
it's all
active. Oof.
Everything is just going on a very right direction. It's a productive way of putting out the whole mind and body, anger, the emotions, imbalances, everything on the very right way. It's and as you know, the adolescence mood swings, be it girl or female, the hormonal fluctuations and periods, anger, everything. It has to be the body image. They just can't identify who am I, like who I was 10 years back. So that self-identity crisis starts hitting now very soon at a very young age now. And body changes, I think very well said that it all needs to be addressed. Again, we can't limit the child rather than putting restrictions. Let's just modify our concepts, our value system as per the child requirement. And that is the only way. Like,
you know, interestingly, we also stand today at intersectionality of sexual identity.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of youngsters later in life, you know, will also be attracted to the opposite gender.
Right.
And as a neurodiverse, how do you navigate? So those are also issues that will come up.
Definitely.
You know, your child may be mildly autistic or ADHD. But when that person is in a relationship with somebody, as a partner, as a boyfriend or a girlfriend, ek to wo ho gaya, as a colleague, as somebody who's working with you, you know, you will have to make them aware. So that's where Not That Different came in. Self-advocacy. I'm going to be my own self-advocate. I'm going to be very open about what bothers me and what I can do well for you. What are my plus points? But what are the things that are triggering for me? Right? So self advocacy again, जब तक मैं अपने बच्चे के लिए advocacy करूंगी तब तक मैं करूंगी as a parent. I'll be lucky the day he starts to do it on his own, but till the time he's semi-verbal. So, you know, till the time he doesn't do it, I will do it. But the ones who are, see, that is where again on the spectrum we are in a crisis.
Now let's come to this so-called social media. Ma'am is from the background, is why you know it's amazing to discuss this today. It's playing a major role in, be it neurotypical, neurodiverse. It's playing a major role in everybody's life. How do you all think? Is it good? Is it bad? Or how we can shape it definitely in a better way? So, your take on it, and ma'am, your take on it.
So, as you mentioned about this positive and side effects, I would say it goes how you manage it for the child, be it for an adult, and especially a child who's going through some difficulty, I would say, but in any way. And it is important first maybe that is the only way they connect with the real world.
Mm.
It can be their comfort. It can be their, sitting at my place, at my home and just scrolling because there's no comparison. There's no judgment. There's no comment passing by. I have to just go through it at very easy space. Or otherwise it can be, sometimes for the parents as well and the child, they're able to build a very good network through that social media. Like awareness, these kind of podcasts, the interviews, everything that's happening around, like Instagram account, like you are spreading awareness about. So it's all this contribution matters. And maybe somebody who's not aware of it, maybe I would just read through Google, but somebody coming from a person who's just talking about it very openly, and I can have the face over what I'm listening about or what I'm reading about. It makes more sense. So that I can see the person, I can hear them. There's more, I would say, more relation to what I can think about. So it has multiple reasons of it. It can be a network building thing. It can be a support that parent might need as well, not just the child. They might need whole lot of comfort and support that, okay, other parents are also going through it. Maybe I will help somebody. Maybe somebody will help me. Some guidance, some networking and resources. Like, different kind of directories are there. I need to know whom I can contact. If something like unexpected happens in a scenario that I know nobody's reachable, I should know at least I have those sources in my hand. Coming to how is it now impacting in a negative way? Again, it's like too much screen time, sometimes looking and connecting with the real world, but there's a lot of comparisons that definitely comes. It can be through body issues. It can be the personality, how physically I look, how the other person is looking. Personality is, I would say, confidence, esteem, everything that, somebody else is more confident. I'm not able to do X, Y, Z thing. Or it can be somehow more of peer pressure that, okay, my friends are, suppose they're studying in this university. I'm not able to go there or for whatever reasons. Much that pressure of academics. It can be looks. It can be the confidence, the work. Maybe I'm working in some company I'm not satisfied at. Or maybe they're exploring multiple prospects in their life and I'm still stuck in one direction. I think it's go both ways for the child and parent. And somehow the too much screen time, too much addiction, it just hampers their mind functioning. They're not able to, sometimes parents say they're just lazy. They're just lying down and doing their thing. Maybe they're too anxious about it. Maybe, as I said, it's the only comfort thing that they're doing. Maybe they're trying to escape from some thoughts that they are usually recurring kind of thoughts. It can be about anything, that it's the only thing. Okay, I'm thinking about something negative. I just start and scrolling. It's mindlessly scrolling that I'm not able to see what I'm seeing. It's just doing that. There's no sense also whether I'm enjoying it or not. Doesn't matter. I'm just doing it for the sake of it because I might not have good friends around. I may not have supportive family. I may not be somebody who is able to express openly. And all of these contribute in a way that I will just, let's connect on social media. Then somehow if cybercrime comes into the picture, or maybe, some comments can become on your somebody's personality as well. It takes a huge toll. Teenagers can't handle it. And again, multiple incidents happen. Psychologically, they get disturbed. And for lifelong, it can create an impact. Not just for that day or a month. They might feel that way about themselves for a very, very long time until that issue is resolved. So that is why childhood trauma, why that childhood healing is required. I've seen many clients who are not like very much connected to their inner child now. Because they feel that was not fulfilled. I was just growing up. I was having the best family. I had a lot of money. I had all the facilities and best life. But why are they still so empty? Because they never had I would say they never enjoyed the process. It was just, eating at a very good restaurant or maybe having the best time with my friends. But I was not present there. Like if I'm drinking a coffee, I should know. I'm just, have the way I'm holding it, the taste, the sip, like the rain, everything. You need to be very observant. You're just running with the time. It can be, there's no when and how to do it, but we're still running about it. We don't know whether we want it also or not. It's a rat race and everybody's onto it. That is how social media somehow impacts. But it's very, very, very important as well. It's a lot of awareness, lot of things you need to know that you don't get to know in real world. Maybe you're not getting to know it from the people I meet every day. But I'm just meeting or seeing them on the platforms where they are giving very good information about. It's just how well you're able to manage what things you're looking at. And parents might keep a little kind of check over it in a way that, the limited screen time. Or it can be somehow managing that what they're seeing, how they're dealing with it. How are they able to take that knowledge, take that information they see? I can take it in a good way. Maybe I will just take it in a very personal comment. Oh, this is for me. This is about me. I am that bad person. It's maybe some people like who are like me. So it is how they perceive that information as well, not just seeing it. We might read multiple things today, but it's not impacting me because maybe I'm not perceiving it in that way. I know there are those set of people who say those things, or some people who are spreading knowledge about good things. But again, it's about how I perceive, how I process that information, and whether I want to implicate it in my daily life or not. So those things, a child, adolescence, or I would say, teenager, they might not be able to do all that understanding on their own, and we can't expect them to. Then it comes somebody from the family, caregiver, who needs to just have, maybe you share time with them. We can watch a movie together. Maybe we can watch some reels together. What all Bollywood news is happening if you're interested. Sports kind of thing, journalism, media, everything. Let's sit together and watch it. Rather than something so that they don't feel I'm always, there's always an eye over me. Not that suspicion kind of thing, but just I'm there. I want to have that good time with you. It might be your bonding connection that set that, okay, now we'll sit together and have a, just talk about it. What is your take on this is happening in the world? There are multiple incidents that can get to know through media, be it about awards, Olympics, like everything. Your child should be aware of it. You don't have to wait for them to go and study in school and then tell you. Maybe it all starts at home. You should give that knowledge. So that is how you give it, how they take it, and the process of understanding the whole concept. And if they want to implicate it, they can. If you think that, okay, not everything needs to be processed. Sometimes it just to be heard, seen, and done. You don't have to take all in. Some kids take everything in. They take it very, very personally. And trust me, it doesn't stay for a very short period of time. It stays for a very longer period. It impacts the whole system, belief systems as well. Your value system might, my family members doesn't allow me that. Why he or she is able to do that? They might start blaming or somehow thinking that it's my parents' fault. But maybe it is not. So that is where it comes, that maybe your value system is not strong enough. You need to work on that. That's fair enough. We can do that. Maybe the belief system needs to be more, I would say, clearly communicated to that child. This is how we have been. Maybe this is what you can try. Maybe you can be that family chain breaker person who can come out to be very, very nice, intelligent, smart, active, alert, and all that you want to be. There's no as such limitations and restrictions. And as I mentioned, suppose they're seeing, if they don't want to brush teeth and maybe eat a chocolate later, rather than putting that, oh, you can't, and having an argument over that small thing, it's the easy way. Okay, have it, but they should be aware that, okay, you need to brush your teeth after that. And if 1 day or 2 days you're not doing, it's fine. The world is not crashing. Nothing is going to happen to your teeth or you. You can have that chocolate. Because those things, the way she handled that incident, it shows how that child is going to handle something in their own life. That if I'm not getting it, or if I'm not that OCD, why does it come into the picture? Okay, this is the pattern. If I've eaten chocolate, I have to brush teeth. If they have strongly, they're built or pressurized to do that. Not knowing why am I doing it? Why am I told to do that? It's like they're just doing it. And obsession is there. If I'm not able to do that, it just starts bothering them. Oh, I'm breaking the pattern. I'm breaking the chain. It's a very obsessive, compulsive thought or behavior that comes into play. And then they believe that if I'm not able to do X, Y, Z thing, I'm not able to get that kind of result. They will not understand if there's any other way to do that. This is the only way that I can achieve my outcome. Like she said it, that, you might do it again. You might just eat a chocolate. So there's another way. There's an alternative option to do that. Maybe child was not able to process that, was not able to think that way, but somebody from the family guided them. Because you have that open mind, you have that awareness. You gave them option. So they choose, okay, either I don't eat a chocolate or either I have to brush and then eat a chocolate. So they make that choice. Decision making starts like that. It is that giving them options, letting them choose. But be there. If they fall back, if they do something blunder, still parents should be there. They should not go to some random people on the street or friends on Instagram to help me out. It's the worst way. And that happens. I know sometimes it's not every child is blessed with a good family, I would say. But it starts, I think the parents and the one who is bringing the child to the world, they at least that much contribution needs to be there. I know we all are tired at that age. We have done struggle for years, but the child needs it. Not just he deserves, but I think he has earned it. You are the one who has given the birth. And that much is something, you don't know, like 18, 20, a child may just fly away. They will be in their own college, friends. Then you will feel, it's all gone. You know, that void then just hits if you're not given enough. Don't expect something out of return. That I'm doing this for the child. He will look after me, or he will praise me. It might not happen. That's the only thing. Expectations are real. It's a human nature. We all do that. But in a way, if that doesn't work in your favor, if it doesn't work in that particular scenario, it doesn't define what you did was not justified or was not right. You did what you did, and that was the best you could do. And maybe it shows how you are as a mother or as a person, rather than how the child took it. Nothing on his fault as well. That's his life. Maybe his journey ahead. It just he's happy, he's stable, he's good enough. I think it's good. He's good without even depending on you. That was the whole point of doing all that you did for years. So I think that is how social media, family, limitations, how we can restrict it in a way, in a good, productive way. All of that contributes.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely in agreement with all the points. So I'm not going to repeat those. That all I'm going to add here is that I feel again my experience is coming from handling a child who is moderate on the autism spectrum, and so my worldview is only till there, centric till there, because I have no other experience of raising any other child.
Right.
And so, for me as a parent, I have started to believe that in times to come, AI, Gen AI, will play a very important role. Right. Tech is going to be my child's caretaker, communicator, everything. So from that point of view, I feel every parent, should, if you have the means, then one of the things that one needs to do is find out the cutting edge ways in which the child can be supported with the use of AI.
Correct.
So, technology there plays a very important role. Social media, from self-advocacy point of view, yes, as you already mentioned, is a very, very important piece, because that's the only way we communicate with the world.
Right.
Technology and the use of screen time, etc., at 45, I'm also struggling with it.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel I need to go to rehab, जहाँ मुझे कुछ ना दिया जाए और ले लिया जाए मुझसे मेरा mobile और ये सब. But this is a generation. My son, the year he was born, Apple introduced touchscreen.
Okay.
So, we went to the mall and, he saw a huge, that standee of outside the Apple store, which had the Apple this thing. He just went and he touched it. Ye chal kyun nahi raha hai? So their interface is that of, so, technology is part of their lives in ways unheard of, right? But how to use it for your child's benefit. So, for instance, I'm taking the social media and the tech, and I'm getting the tech aspect to it, because social media you've covered beautifully. Everybody needs to, uske effects caregivers ke liye bhi hain, adults ke liye bhi hain, bachon ke liye bhi hain, and you know what? I'm shifting towards technology now. We've just started using Alexa for setting audio schedules.
Okay.
So Amazon got in touch and they said that, we have a lot of parents who are doing this. Would you be game for it? I said, absolutely. Do mujhe batao kaise karna hai. So, for instance, Madhav's routine is, his special educator is working on the number of times you should be brushing.
Okay.
He is 14. दिन में 2 बार ब्रशिंग होती है, लेकिन एक बार की ब्रशिंग we supervise that we do it ourselves, because I know people have this on their independence goals to strike. पर मेरे इंडिपेंडेंस गोल्स में अभी मैं उसको डेंटिस्ट के पास लेके जाऊं और फिर उसको जनरल एनेस्थीसिया दे के उसकी क्लीनिंग कराऊं या कैविटी निकलवाऊं, वो उतनी मेरी हिम्मत नहीं है. Which is what I tell parents. Let also the world tell you that, make your child independent, but the things that are important, if you have to do it, please do it. So, if you have to monitor your child's brushing, please don't bother about कि आपके आजू बाजू लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं, या people are still क्या तुम अभी तक brush कर रहे हो, तुम अभी तक वो कर रहे हो. I'm all right with it, because it's my child, my unique story, my unique this thing. I'm not ready to give my child general anesthesia and take him for cleaning or anything, so I will do it. So the number of times. So we are teaching him 8 times. So 8 times here, 8 times, 8 8 upar, 8 niche, like that. So this was the goal given to the therapist. So she started using a YouTube, this thing, So now what we are trying to do is, take that music a little, like, abhi wo nursery time se kar raha hai. But, eventually give him that music as his audio command. So that in the morning, he says, Alexa, play Madhav's morning routine. Then that music becomes his timer. कि इतने से इतने टाइम तक जो ये चल रहा है म्यूजिक, I have to finish my brushing, and they are slaves of structure. So utilize it in a positive way, ना कि अगर वो है स्ट्रक्चर का पाबंद तो भाई उसको इसमें स्ट्रक्चर दे दो. So using Alexa for doing a lot of things, for reminders, for setting audio and visual schedules. A lot of times they'll forget. Right now, I mean, in the times to come, I mean, this is what I'm looking at as cutting edge help for my child. That he doesn't know, the child wouldn't know कि पानी इतने गर्म पे आता है या इतने गर्म पे आता है, कैसे होता है. Now, there are smart switches, right? You just tell Alexa, play Madhav's, Alexa, we are on Madhav's morning schedule. The morning schedule will include playing the music for Nahana. The morning schedule will also switch the geyser on for him. The tech will do that. The evening sched may include playing the right kind of music, creating the right kind of lights, putting the right kind of temperature, which he is all right with. Use technology for that, and it doesn't cost much. Every phone today has a WhatsApp, has a Siri, has a Google Talk. Yeah. Every phone has it. Find out ways in which technology can help your child. Now you have Google glasses that are helping child to look at things, understand things. Who knows, tomorrow Gen AI, in his ear will tell him that, how I need to navigate. Yeah. That, Dolly has asked him, so, hi Madhav, how are you? The phone is telling him, I'm fine. And he says, I'm fine, Dolly. Right? These are things that are going to come. I also am of the view that, use technology in a way and do not set stupid goals for your child. For example, I'm never going to teach my child how to read an analog watch. अब पेरेंट्स पढ़े हुए हैं भाई, ये 5 2s are 1s are 2s are 10 5 3s are 15 14. मैंने नहीं सिखाना है उसको बिना कैलकुलेटर के मैथ्स करना. मैं करती हूँ. Exactly. I still do it like this on my fingers thing. So जूते बांधना सिखाना है, नहीं सिखाना है. Velcro shoes आ गए हैं. So I have to teach him things that are all right. He needs to understand money to be able to operate in money. But the safest way is to teach them how to use debit cards, how to use credit cards, how to use ATM, how to use, when to use ATM and not to use, how to make those transfers and transactions. So technology is playing a huge role in making our children independent today. Addiction, of course, of tech is of a different kind. In our case, we see it in a different way because in autistic kids, they tend to see the same thing over and over again. So, if he likes that piece of music, he will play it over and over and over again. But I have realized that tech has only helped him. But the only thing one has to be very careful about is go through your eye tests very often because they'll not be able to tell you. Neurotypicals bhi nahi bata pate hain ki bhai aapki aankh kamzor ho rahi hai. So those tests have to be done. But think of the ways in which technology will be able to sort you. I always am also now telling people that if you're self-advocates, come out, be influencers. In being an influencer is making you money. If you are an ADHD influencer, if you're an autistic influencer, come. So social media ka ye how to use it for your own benefit is very important. For me specifically, I would say social media has been phenomenal. Not only from my advocacy point of view, but from learning, from being open to interacting with mothers from all across the world. What are they doing? There is such a huge relief and calm in collective humanity that मैं अकेले नहीं हूँ जिसके साथ हो रहा है. There's somebody else who's going through this. There's somebody else who's going through things that are much worse than where I am. So it's a leveler in a huge way. But yes, social media, as she said, it can also lead you to comparing your special needs parenting with another special needs parenting. So, you know, उतना आपकी agency होनी चाहिए कि आपको क्या करना है. लेकिन I think using of technology, like, you know, हम AACs use करते थे और हम you know, जरूरी नहीं है, ये acceptance में ये भी एक बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा है कि आपके बच्चे को आपसे communicate करना चाहिए. There's no necessity that he should be using language for it. So if my child is ready to interact with me using emojis, I'm very happy with it. If he can WhatsApp to me sight words, I'm very happy with it. So that becomes a form of communication. Now, I was elated when my son came to me with big basket and he wanted to show he loves orange. So, you know, he came and he showed me orange. That for me was a celebration. I ordered 1 kilo orange that day because, you know, he is communicating with me. And then we started using that to teach him sight words.
Okay.
So, you know, things that he likes. Pasta, Pasta, because our children don't learn phonetically. So autistic children, a lot of them learn with sight words. And if you have a repository of 1,000 sight words, you know, you can manage through life, right? So technology is huge, you know, today, and especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities where intervention is less. But there are so many people making AAC apps. There are so many companies like Cognable has come, which is doing ABA online. There are things that are available. There are those tests that are available online that may help you. So have to understand what more can I do with social media? What more can I do with this tech? And I think that is the crux. कि हम technology collaborations कैसे IITs से collaborate करें, किसी और cutting edge engineering college से collaborate करें, get funding to find out, you know, how we can make a app which is for you know, helping people who cannot talk, you know, or how they need to navigate if they are outside. So technology is a game changer, I feel, especially for our children. So I'm all in for technology. I also struggle with social media addiction. So, you know, I mean, I guess that's part and parcel. But, you know, to the point where you said parents and children should take breaks together, I think the child sees what you're doing. If you're not going to take a break, आप किस entitlement से आप बच्चे को बोल रहे हैं कि तुम break लो? So, you know, I think it works both ways. Everybody should take those breaks, but it is a huge part of our lives.
And as she's, you know, she's like a parent. They need to be updated. You need to keep learning. You need to be in touch with what's happening around. I can't be like, oh, my parents didn't allow me that, or this use was not my pattern. Keep that aside. To survival, maybe, or just to keep going in our own life. And for children, you need to just be very open to learn and grow.
I'll also tell you another thing. You know, a lot of times parents don't take their children out. ठीक है? लेकिन आपको पता है कि आपका बच्चा जो है, जब आप उसको मोबाइल देते हो या iPad देते हो, वो शांति से बैठता है, right? Do that. At least take the child out. True. You know, वरना आप अपने special needs बच्चे को बाहर नहीं ले जाते because of embarrassment, because of all of those things. You don't step out. I say use the addiction in the right way. One day when you are stepping out, आज तुम्हारा दिन है. Play the entire day on social media. Sit nicely at a wedding, eat, drink, be merry. You know. At that point in time, please do not do these things कि नहीं मेरा बच्चा तो 2 ही घंटे और उसको तो इतने ही मिनट मिलता है अरे you are having a great time, enjoy the party, enjoy stepping out. If the child is again 2 दिन के 3 दिन के 4 दिन के 1 महीने के addiction से तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. So choose your battles, you know, use social media to help you. There are social stories, not that different. That is one of the things that we have done, and we work primarily with children and caregivers. So we ask them that, you know, make stories, tell your stories, and children, you know, use social media for that. But I always tell parents, बाहर जा रहे हो और बच्चा कर रहे हो, तुम्हें क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? Who is judging you?
Exactly.
The child is sitting quietly. You are having a decent meal. Give him that bloody tablet, yeah. Give him your phone. So utilizing social media as much as it utilizes you, that's the trick. that, technology,
Hmm.
how much you should also be able to use it. I think there's, especially for us parents and our children like ours, they are game changers. Now you have genetic predisposition.
Yeah.
So, parents can go for their genetic analysis and find out if they
Right.
can have children with any kind of
Mm.
neurodiversity. That
Mm.
is the tech. So it is surrogate tech, versus tech intervention. They haven't really figured out if autism can be diagnosed at the time of pregnancy. But we do know that there are researches that are happening there. But at the moment, what we know very strongly that there is a genetic connect. So the biggest thing one can do is get your genetic it's called pre-genome tests done, and you will be able to at least figure, what is it likely to develop. Once you have the child, and if the child is on the spectrum, to find out comorbidities. Again, a genetic testing can be done to figure out if the child in the future is likely to have any kind of a mental health challenge. Can bipolar depression or depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or anything. So that tech is developing right now. If that tech comes into space, then we will be able to figure, what is, the question, what after me? Will then be addressed by that, because from the very beginning you are handling the anxiety, you are handling those aspects that can contribute to that condition. So tech will always play a surrogate role. I don't know if there is a fix per se, but they're also doing brain studies, etc. So पर मुझे वही लगता है कि हमको ऑटिज्म को अंडरस्टैंड करने में हेल्प मिल रही है, बट क्या ऑटिज्म को प्रिवेंट करने में हेल्प मिल रही है? Perhaps not.
Fantastic. We have had an amazing session. A lot of things that, we got to know new.
Right.
A lot of things that we've explored today. Very different angles that we've explored today. We are truly glad that you all are here today. Thank you so much, both of you. And believe me, this is the point where it's going to go viral now.
No, I thank you so much that you're giving us a platform to talk, because it's so important for voices to be heard.
True.
And with people with reach, people with means, we want the voices to go and reach to people who perhaps are not as privileged as us. So as people who are getting help, it becomes our responsibility to at least help somebody who is not in that space. Because, eventually we are going to live in a world where there are more neurodiverse people rather than neurotypical.
Yeah.
True.
So,
Yes. So true.
Yeah.
thanks to you also, having somebody from different and both aspects of it, who is
Yeah.
living it every day, and somebody who is, as professionally, we are dealing with it. We need to know both concepts.
Yeah.
We can't work independently.
True.
I can't if I don't know the real story and the inside in depth of it. So I think it goes for everybody to just first understand, read, accept,
And then it's a partnership.
Then
I
it has
don't
to.
think
It never gets
alone
to an end.
as a parent I can do
Exactly.
anything.
Teamwork.
I
Teamwork.
need my team of, I need all the ammo in place.
Exactly.
Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much for having
Thank
us.
you so
Thank you.
much.